Thank you very much for joining our Beyond the Bin webinar for SWEEP with Nicole Toole and Natasha Dyer. My name is Rob Watson, and I'm founder and president of SWEEP, and I wanted to thank everybody for being here. We will get okay, there we go. Computer is really slow because Zoom, I don't know if people have noticed this, but since Zoom launched its new workspace product, it sucks up a huge amount of bandwidth. I don't know if people have found that, but that's been my experience. So if anybody is, so apologize for the delay. So I'm going to also launch a little quiz here, seeing how much you know. Okay, so the poll is up. People are answering. Awesome. And good, lots of good answers so far. So we will do at the end, Nicole will reveal the answers to the quiz for fun and prizes, mostly the previous one. So anyway, so we're really fortunate to have Nicole with us. Nicole is the co-founder and CEO of Eek-Go, which I think it pretty much sums up our current situation. We are in a huge crisis, so we've got to go. And so thanks to people like Nicole and Natasha, we are doing good things to begin moving the needle in solid waste. And Nicole is an expert in shifting consumer behaviors towards sustainability. She's worked with the Recycling Partnership in Cascadia, a very well-known consulting firm in Washington State, and has led multiple programs around the U.S. And getting really important results. In often increasing participation by 50-60% or more. And we are also really fortunate to have our acting executive director, Natasha Dyer, a true Renaissance woman, started in fashion and was appalled at the sustainability problems there, took a brief detour into green buildings, and then became passionate about waste, and has worked across multiple sectors in the waste industry, from consulting to working for a hauler to leading the organics programs around composting, recycling for the city of Atlanta. And again, we've been fortunate enough to snag her from her amazing trajectory to help us get SWEEP going. And so without further ado, I'm going to pause the poll until the break between Natasha and Nicole. And Nicole will now let us know about all the fabulous programs that Eek-Go is working on right now.
Fantastic. And thank you so much, Rob, and Natasha, for this opportunity to share a little bit about some of our work and what we're doing in order to help organizations reach those important diversion goals. So Rob did a wonderful introduction on my background. So I have spent the last 5 years or so doing a lot of research around student and consumer behaviors around recycling. So figuring out why particularly college students don't recycle and how can we get them to do it on a more consistent basis. So I'm going to share my screen and we can dive in. And so out of that so let me go ahead and share this real quick and get situated. And we can get into it. So that's a little bit, that was the focus of my background. So I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I've worked alongside the Recycling Partnership in Cascadia Consulting to do that research. And so what really came out of that time that I was working with those organizations was there's 3 things that we found that really prevent recycling and participation. The first being that people just simply do not know how to participate, so they don't know what to put into their bins. 2, they don't have an incentive to participate. So like in Atlanta, Georgia, unfortunately, we don't have any like bottle deposit laws or any economic incentives to get people to behave more sustainably. So we're really having to rely on people who just want to do the right thing. And sometimes that isn't enough. And so the last thing was we don't see the impact of our waste. So after you put that item in the recycling bin or you put it in the landfill bin, you're not seeing a landfill, you don't smell a landfill, you don't know where it goes. And the same is true for recycling. You don't see the positive impact of what happens when you recycle as well. And so we wanted to take all of those learnings and build solutions to help organizations better communicate the strong points of their programs, but also to meet consumers where they are and helping them do the right thing. So lastly, I am a huge foodie. So if you need any recommendations for restaurants in Atlanta, Georgia, I am more than happy to give them. And I'm also a plant mom to quite a few little plants at my house. So as I talked a little bit about some of my background and the research that I did, and so one of the questions that I receive all the time to this day, and I'm sure you receive all of the time, is can I recycle this? We live in a time where there is an incredible increase of materials on the market, different types of products on the market with different types of packaging. And so answering this question has become more and more complex and hard to answer. So, and with that, the recycling education tactics that we see aren't doing the greatest job of answering these questions for constituents. So whether that be signage and flyers, tablings, webinars, social media, or even waste audits to give us an idea of what's coming through our stream, they're not helping us in real time answer that question for our residents, but also that feedback loop of what residents are putting in the bin can be really long as well, taking a few months to get an idea of what they're confused about or what they're actually putting in the bin. So we essentially wanted to help residents, help consumers answer that question more quickly and effectively, but also give coordinators the tools to understand what's happening in their waste streams in real time so they can make some impactful changes. So that is where the Eek-Go platform comes into view. And so Eek-Go is a zero waste platform that helps to educate and engage residents on recycling and composting. So what that means is your residents can take a picture of literally anything. And we'll detect what the item is and if it's recyclable or compostable based on their geographic location and or your location specific guidelines. And so you're able to manage those guidelines through our admin portal, which is also where you're able to view the insights into what's being disposed in real time. So how the Eek-Go app works is you snap a picture of anything. Your residents will then receive points for every recyclable or compostable item. We can also tweak points to items that are more confusing. So for example, you see Berkeley is doing a new education campaign about compostable cups because they're no longer compostable in their state or in their university. So we're actually incentivizing users to take pictures of those cups so that they can get re-educated. So they're getting more points for even those items. And then users can redeem those points for rewards that you can manage, but also they can compete against their neighbors, their friends, social groups, other people within their community as well. So how Eek-Go works is we use in order to surface location-specific guidelines, we use geofencing technology. So what that means is when we onboard your municipality, we create a geofence around the community. And then you are able to add the guidelines over that geofence. And so what that means is anyone can download Eek-Go at any time, at any place, but once they step within your municipality or within your community, they then receive those location-specific guidelines. And so this is wonderful because if guidelines change, if rules change, anything changes, you can automatically update it on the admin portal, and it automatically updates on the app. So constituents always have those correct rules at their fingertips. And so as people are using the platform, our AI models also improve with them as well. So we become more and more detailed and knowledgeable of the recycling materials within your community to make the platform even better over time. So I mentioned that you are able to manage those guidelines within your community. So you do that on the ECGO admin portal. So you can manage, first thing you can do is look at the data insights. So as people are taking pictures of what they're disposing or what they're confused about, you can actually see all of that in real time. So you can answer questions like, what are the most commonly recycled items within my community? What are the items that people are getting most confused about? Are there opportunities to divert more materials because people are particularly interested in furniture recycling for whatever reason? We can help answer those questions. And then you manage those guidelines as well. So you basically add your bin categories. So that will likely be recycling, maybe composting, and then a landfill bin. And you add the materials that are acceptable within that. And then you can update those guidelines at any point in time. And then lastly, you can also customize your rewards. So we currently have partnerships with brands who are able to surface rewards on the platform. If you would like to make adjustments or changes, if you don't like a certain vendor for whatever reason, you can select and deselect which ones you would like. And then also, if you want to add your own community rewards, so if you have specific relationships with the local coffee shops that you want to get integrated on there, you can also add them onto the platform. So program setup is pretty easy. You set up your rules on the admin portal, and then residents can recycle and earn rewards on Eek-Go. And you save time, and you can also relax knowing that residents have those correct rules all of the time. And hopefully you will cut down on the number of emails that you receive in your inbox about how to recycle printer cartridges, for example, or whatever the case might be. So our work has primarily been on university campuses. So Georgia State University, Georgia Tech, and UC Berkeley most notably. We've done small pilot programs with about 10 other universities in the US. And so what we've learned quite a few things about competitions, incentives, how it changes behavior. And so right now on the platform, students on the college campuses, they receive gift cards after a certain amount of times that they're recycling through the platform. And so what we learned is that a lot of students have used this platform as a way to earn groceries as well as transportation. So right now, Kroger, especially in Georgia, makes up over 25% of the gift cards that are redeemed. And so it really kind of goes back to a lot of college students do not have a lot of the economic means to get some of these basic needs, and Eek-Go is a way for them to do that. The second thing is competition with friends. That was a huge thing that has been extremely successful. So doing competitions, whether that be within housing or Greek life or university versus university, we've seen significant engagement when we have those competitions around Earth Month or around America Recycles Day. And so that's something that if you haven't tried before, it might be something that can help spur some engagement and interaction with your constituents. And then lastly, environmental impact. So we had quite a few of students who shared with us that they are now tracking their waste footprint over time. And so what we're starting to do on the platform now is lean into that a little bit more and not only help you track, okay, what are you recycling, but also what is the carbon reductions from recycling over landfill, over composting, et cetera, et cetera. So really starting to lean in that into even more. So overall, Eek-Go has been a really holistic approach to helping people track their waste, track their environmental footprint, but also creates the right social pressures. I don't like that word, like social pressures. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's more so just like, I guess, right, I'll just say it is that social pressure, but just getting other people within your friend groups to feel a little more competitive about doing the good things around waste. And so we've also seen that programs that offer incentives have about 3 times the engagement. So this really probably is because it's college students, but students really like having some type of incentive to adopt the platform, use the platform. It really gets them used to use it on a consistent basis. And then lastly, 56% of our students reported increasing their recycling from a monthly to a weekly basis. So this was really huge because what everyone is trying to figure out, I think, right now is, okay, we can easily get the people who already care about sustainability. How do we get the average Joe who doesn't really care or really understands how to participate? How do we get those people to engage with our programs? And so what we're starting to see is we have a lot of students who are international, who have never recycled in the United States. Or we have students who are coming from states that don't have recycling programs, so they don't know how to recycle. But because they've adopted Eek-Go, they're becoming more knowledgeable about recycling, but they also have that incentives to participate consistently, which is really fantastic. So does this translate to the waste stream? So that is a huge question, and we're starting to see that it does. So far we've diverted over 50,000 pounds from the landfill. We've been live for about 18 months now, and we saw a 20% decrease in contamination at the Georgia Institute of Technology, which was really fantastic. And then lastly, we saw that 65% increase in recycling at Georgia State University. So we're really starting to see that as that adoption increases, the changes in the waste stream do in fact happen as well. And so secondly, here's a little case study that we had at Georgia Institute of Technology. So this blue line here is the geofence that we created around the campus. So when we set the campus up, we create the geofence. Whenever you're inside of that campus, you can recycle on the platform. When you're outside of that campus, you do not get rules. So you cannot recycle, and that data is not added to this program. So every green dot is a session that started. So that is a student that opened the app and started taking pictures of all the things that were around them. And so what we did with this data is we did waste audits in the high eco-engaged areas. So we did one in the northeast, which is their North Avenue apartments. And then we also did it, forgive me, this is their West Village apartments, and then the North Avenue apartments down here. And so that's where we saw that 20% decrease in contamination in those high eco-engaged areas. So the more students adopted the platform, the less contamination we started to see in the waste stream overall. So this is a quote that we received from one of our students, Jaden, who is a junior, and she said that she's more knowledgeable of certain plastics that cannot be recycled, and she's more aware of the recycling stations near her campus housing. So again, we're starting to see that because people see Eek-Go as a game or a fun tool to earn points or understand their waste footprint, the more they use the platform, the more knowledgeable they are about how to dispose of waste within the campus. And so that, which is literally what we're trying to change here, is how can we actually get people to recycle more, compost more, and then of course waste less. So with that, that is the end of the presentation. We currently do not launch on municipalities right now, but in 2025, we plan to start piloting with a few campuses. So we would love to chat. I would love to chat with you to learn more about your program, and see how we can get you involved in this pilot project that we've got coming up rather quickly. So thank you so much, Rob and Natasha, once again.
This is great stuff, Nicole. We definitely have been engaging students on a number of campuses, actually helping us develop a sweep for campuses tool. And we've had a couple of assessments of university campuses according to this. It sounds like there could be some good opportunities for cooperation. So you and I will definitely have a talk later. And so I'm sure Nicole will definitely help us understand how Eek-Go can, contributes to sweep certification, and a little bit of overview about sweep itself. And then we will open it up to Q&A, hopefully about more than just good gluten-free restaurants in Atlanta. And so we look forward to this. And while Natasha is setting up her screen, I am going to relaunch the poll just to give folks a couple of minutes to answer the questions that Nicole posed to us. And then we will see we're going to test your recycling IQ afterwards. Okay, so Natasha, when you're ready, fire up your screen, and then we'll close the poll and keep going.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Nicole. I thought that I had so many things going on as you talked in that little bit of time. I remember like in grad school for us, they always said that if you gamified a lot of the world's problems, we'd probably come up with a lot more solutions. So I think that's great. Like how you linked it to just gamifying things. And then I think you've also potentially single-handedly figured out wish cycling, because if you geofence all these areas and then people, if you had to actually scan everything you wanted to recycle and said, can it go in a bin here? And it can't, look, you've solved wish cycling. And then there was something else. Oh, I thought it was funny too how you said you didn't like social pressures, whereas that's all I do when I feel like I'm always telling people to compost, because every time you put food in your waste stream, you're actually adding to climate change. So I actually use a lot of social pressures and guilt to make people do the things I want them to do when it comes to food waste anyway. So very, very great presentation and a very great product. I can't wait to see what more comes from it. And so now I'll tell you a bit about SWEEP and how today's topic of fostering better education and outreach outlets correlates and fits in with SWEEP certification. So I'll give you some of our background and then I'll share how that all ties in. Let's see. Okay, great. So at SWEEP, we have a vision of a world without waste, where all of society's discards are viewed as commodities to be continuously cycled back into a circular economy at their highest and best use. And so our work and our mission then focuses on tackling this challenge through the solid waste industry. That's who we're hoping to get to make these shifts so that we can then start to see more of our materials actually skipping landfills. Like, how can we incentivize this industry to get out of this business of landfilling and to kind of get into this more business of what the EPA has coined since 2009, sustainable materials management, so that we can become more environmentally friendly, innovative, and efficient. And it's really, I like to really put a bow on it by saying we're trying to use this industry to figure out ways to send more messages back upstream to the people that are actually manufacturing goods, that we want this stuff to stop being landfilled. And how are we going to start getting it to where your goods are being manufactured in such a way that they actually are truly recyclable or truly compostable, so that when people are recycling, it's no longer wish cycling. This material is actually getting back into markets and actually being recycled, so that we begin to really have these two streams of really probably just recycling and really just composting. And so a little bit of background about us. SWEEP was founded in 2016 by our wonderful ringleader or ringmaster, Rob Watson, who's being our not our mentor, like you are actually running the show forward. And he's the same man that founded LEED, the green building rating system that over the last 25 years has become the largest and fastest growing and most recognizable green building standard. Now in 170 countries, it's just synonymous with green building. When you think green building, you think LEED. And just as it was when he was creating LEED that time ago to measure energy efficiency and water usage in buildings, he saw that there was no standard by which to measure those efficiencies. Just when he started creating SWEEP, he saw the same irregularities in the waste and recycling industry, that there was no standard or universal definition for the materials that are being measured and called out in recycling and diversion stories. And because nothing has been defined, you really can't truly measure success or how well all of this is at diverting from landfill. And so to illustrate this point further, I like to go up to this high, up this 9,000-foot view and just show everyone that we've got about 90,000 local governments in our country. And in those 90,000 municipalities and districts, you will see upwards of 1,000 different types of recycling programs. Hence why we have to have an app that geofences and tells you exactly what you can recycle in that area. And why we even have 1,000 programs, it's because there's been no standardization in the way the industry defines the materials flowing through those systems so that they actually hit into markets and everyone knows what's actually being diverted. And so, for example, if you take a look at how plastics are characterized on one waste study versus another study, you may see on that first study that plastics are just broken out as just being called plastics. And then on another one, they're broken out into rigids, number 2s, number 3s, number 4s. And so you're really never getting like this kind of same view of what's actually in the waste stream. And so then my favorite is always going to be the very classification you get of organic waste or green waste. And so on one study, you'll see green waste is simply what people push out to the curb for their cities to collect as yard trimmings. And on another study, you'll see green waste or organic waste is the commingling of food. And then that's their metric. So, I mean, you're going to get two different numbers, right? If you're just saying we're just getting leaves and that's your metric, that's probably going to be a little more successful than how much food is actually being put into that metric. So that's what it is. There's really no congruency in definitions of what we're measuring to get a clear picture of the material that's being diverted. And so, like, currently everyone makes up their own definitions and rules and then declares victory, saying we're doing so much recycling, but yet this city over here might be really trying to do that much more because they're putting food into their green waste, but you're just diverting tree waste. So one of the key pillars of SWEEP's work is setting about to clearly define material categories and industry terms, a standard. So that one day it will be possible to compare progress across cities based on nomenclature and metrics that everyone is using, and recycling and circularity can get better. Okay, so this here is a snapshot of the ecosystem that SWEEP operates in. And for the sake of this slide, what you're seeing is a perfect world where a company or business takes the time to certify that their discards are fully recyclable and compostable because they've gone through the third-party verification standard that is called TRUE, of one of our companion organizations. And so when these organizations or these businesses roll out their curbs to the cart, all separated and nice, you've got truly recyclables in one bin, truly compostables in another. This is where SWEEP would come in and expand its view to that ecosystem that is the entire materials management industry, and begins to certify what's going on that macro level. So once those materials have gotten on the truck, what's happening? Are these valuable resources headed to a MRF for further separation and circularity, like organics headed to a composting facility? Or what about the built environment? When you start to take apart the windows, the steel, the concrete, the roofing, the wood, the doors, have these buildings been deconstructed in such a way that these materials can then be put back into new markets and sold in reuse stores? And actually this creates new jobs, right? New markets, new economies. Or is instead everything heading to a landfill, or God forbid, a waste to energy facility where they will lose their highest level of worth and value forever? So SWEEP is that third-party engine that incentivizes and then verifies that local governments and their solid waste handlers are creating circular and environmentally sound operations. And because of this model of analysis, the way we're looking at diversion and trying to make it better, the only parties eligible to go through SWEEP certification are local governments. Sometimes that represents even universities because they act as small cities. And their materials handlers, like the haulers and the transfer stations, they can also go through SWEEP certification. And then membership that is extended to planning consultants, waste brokers, and nonprofits, as well as those local governments and materials management handlers. If they're not ready to go through SWEEP certification, we welcome them as members. But members are very important to SWEEP, as it's how the standard was even developed. SWEEP has seen hundreds of subject matter experts from all across the materials management industry spectrum, some with decades of experience, donating thousands of hours of their time and expertise to actually weigh in to create the standard that we're chipping away at and creating for you today, which on the screen, it just shows up to be the certification manual. And this is where you'll get step-by-step how-tos on how to certify, and in-depth case studies on best practices that can bring your local government or solid waste, your handler, into actually becoming a very green solid waste authority. We do all of our reporting, if you're going through certification, you do all your reporting through retrack, which many of you may know from other solid waste programs that cities have to do reporting to. And going through sweep certification then sees you going through 5 performance categories that again target different parts of the solid waste life cycle and encourage best practices. And so I'll go through them here as fast and as high level as I can. And of course, I will circle back to our speaker today and show you just where where her technology could actually fit in to get you points to actually be part of your certification if you so chose to do that. So at the end, they all add up to about 100 points. And there's also some space left for innovation. So if there's something that we haven't thought of, that you've got this great idea and you're actually knocking it out of the park and you're doing really great wonders with diversion that isn't in our certification manual, please submit for it. And you actually get this way that you get innovation points for doing something very new and novel. And at the end, similar to LEED, it adds up and certifies at the certified silver, gold, and platinum levels. And so to give you a brief overview of each category, first off, we've got sustainable materials management policy. And this is the policy, just like it says, the legislation. What ordinances is a local government enacting to make sure resources skip the landfill? Laws that will help to guarantee the sustainability of new waste diversion programs once they're online. And again, like, is that an organics waste ban? Are you making sure building materials don't go into the landfill? And an example here is a pay-as-you-throw program. Many cities and towns around the world, including 7,000 in the US, have pay-as-you-throw programs. And basically in a pay-as-you-throw model, it's like any other utility. Think how you pay your energy bill or your water bill. You pay for trash collection based on how much you throw away. Whereas right now it's kind of like this blanket pricing. It goes up whenever it wants to. I always give the sob story about how my bill goes up every year, and I'm definitely not throwing out anything, right? My trash can might go out every 2 to 3 months because I'm recycling everything, I'm reducing, I'm reusing, I'm composting. I have a very low trash footprint, but yet my bill's going up every year. And so I would love pay as you throw in my community because I'm not throwing out a lot. And so this good case study is shown here at the city of Gainesville, where they were able, after they rolled out their pay-as-you-throw program, they saw a solid waste reduction, collections of 18%, and that they were able to save their residents almost $200,000 from tipping fees, because this is pay-as-you-throw is such a good way to teach your residents diversion. I think it's a good way to teach diversion too, because instead of putting your money into throwing stuff to the curb, you're now going to figure out how to recycle, you're going to figure out how to donate, you're going to figure out how to compost. So pay-as-you-throw is, I think it's a great program. And as we go through the presentation, I want you to know there's a way to download the standard. At the bottom, if you just take that up and you can compare and contrast and see what I'm talking about and see what kind of credits your organization might want to go through to certify it. And so our next performance category that I'll go over is called waste generation prevention. And this category basically gives points for successfully reducing waste on the front end. That's basically how are you educating your ratepayers about waste reductions through public education and outreach so that they're creating less of it on the front end. Are you also supporting things like repair programs, fix-it cafes, tool libraries, so that neighbors can collaborate and share from and not have to be these over consumers that we so much are in our country? And this is where our speaker today fits in. This is where local government taking on education resources through a database like Eek-Go can earn points through the following credits. And I won't go over all of them, but I'll just highlight the first one, which is measuring and calculating waste generation, recovery, and disposal, where this credit gets local governments just what it says, measuring and calculating and characterizing what's in their waste streams. As this then justifies waste reduction programs, provides positive publicity opportunities, reveals the economic value of waste reduction, and uncovers opportunities for process efficiency. So I just imagine when you use a technology like Eek-Go to just continue to get this data and to know what you're doing on a broad scale in your communities already, it just allows you to figure out what's next and what kind of programs to create and what kind of new diversion strategies to make. So that's where Eek-Go would fit for certification. Next performance category is the solid waste collection. And this looks at the transportation piece of a materials management operation. So this is where you earn points by doing things like reducing your greenhouse gas emissions and the environmental footprint of your collection fleets by improving the fuel economy. And this can be done by optimizing collection routes, as an example, like with AI, that's like offered by our suite member AMCS Group. And basically they have a product that can plan the best and most simplified routes for your drivers, saving them gas, and then of course, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And then another way to improve your fuel economy then is to swap out fossil fuel vehicles with ones that are electrified or run on natural renewable fuels. There are also credits in this category for training or for staying on top of the training of your workers, their safety training, since this particular industry is still one of the most dangerous jobs to work in, only dropping from 5th most dangerous in 2020 to 7th. And it's historically been as high as 3rd most dangerous job is to work on these trucks collecting trash, as you can imagine. And in Atlanta, I mean, they're hanging off the trucks. You know, I haven't seen that in so long. Whereas, you know, I'm from a place where they've all got the arm, but like in Atlanta, men are actually hanging off those trucks, and it's just a dangerous job. Even if you've got the arm, sometimes you've got to get out and reposition it, and just having to get out from your truck is just dangerous. So, you can also get points in this credit for having a living wage, maintaining a living wage, right? So SWEEP is actually very concerned with the human impact and the concern for the well-being of your workers. And this is all displayed very well by another suite member, Ecology, which is a solid waste operation that's littered up and down the West Coast. The next performance category is post-collection recovery. And in general, this category focuses on landfill diversion of all recyclable materials through all kinds of different recovery methods, making sure diverted resources are getting back into viable markets to get the best and next highest best use out of them. You can also get points here by your actual facility being sustainable, think the green building. And so that are they energy and water efficient? As shown in this case study of a transfer station and Bow Lake, where making their operation more efficient and environmentally sound by reducing their energy consumption by 63% and water by 59%, saw dramatic greenhouse gas emissions, metric tons per year reduction. You can also get points in this category by making sure operations have no negative social or environmental impact on the surrounding communities for the people that live in these environments. Because sometimes it's unfortunate, but sometimes there are actual communities around landfills and solid waste operations. And just think like if your operation is not affecting creating more air pollution because your vehicles are now more sound and aren't as polluting. Are you making sure that leachate isn't seeping into the groundwater and affecting their water? Is there less noise, less odors, vermin control, all kinds of things that you could do to make sure that you're not affecting the people around your operations, and again, the human impact. And we call that best neighbor practice or good neighbor practices. Next and final performance category is the post-collection disposal. And this category in general measures how effectively you dispose of materials that actually have no higher value. You can't recycle them, they can't be upcycled, there's no reuse value. Like, what can you do to make sure that you're, what is the best management practice to get rid of it? And just note that there's no points given for disposal, but rather the best management practices. And so a good example of this is landfill gas being captured and turned into renewable energy to power buildings, or renewable fuel to power fleets is also rewarded here. So this case study is Volvo Disposal. They're a waste and recycling hauler, and by capturing their landfill gas that's made out of methane that's coming off of landfills anyway, before we that's coming from organics, before we're all starting to get organics out of landfill, they're able to turn this gas into a renewable natural gas that sees them powering 38 of their own vehicles. And they've also been able to create like a public fast fuel stations to get other fleets, other like bus and delivery services to come in and fill themselves up from their gas. And this has now become another source of revenue for them. So yes, those are our performance categories. And so you might be asking yourself, where is SWEEP? Where are we working? Who are we certifying? And so just recently, we've certified in the last several months our first municipality at the silver level, and our first handler processor at the gold level, and that's Mount Diablo Resource Recovery in Concord, California. And notably, Mount Diablo earned its prestigious gold level through the use of alternative fuels to fuel their fleets, just like the last slide, as well as some of their outstanding source reduction programs like partnerships with food rescue groups and local reuse organizations like Habitat for Humanity. They even hold internal clothing swaps for their employees. So they're really walking the walk. I could have actually gone on and on about what they're doing, but they're really pretty promising and probably will be at our highest level not too far from now. So the benefits of SWEEP certification, municipalities that undergo the certification process can achieve higher diversion rates. We think up to 25%. Because once you take yourself through all these programs, it's looking at your waste and measuring it and doing outreach and diversion, you really can start to reduce what's coming through your landfills and reducing your contamination. And of course, then you're saving yourself tipping fees. And there's also, I'd like to mention, there's a lot of money coming down from the feds right now for improved solid waste management. So putting yourself through SWEEP gets you equipped to apply for these grants, and also to be ready for any wave of sustainable materials management regulations that could be coming down the pipeline in your city once these funds start to move around. So just getting geared up for it, because we are in a space where, you know, solid waste is actually part of the climate wheel. We're not going to get out of to mitigate climate change. We've got to be looking more than just you know, green buildings and energy. We've actually got to start looking at the way we're manufacturing things, because there's so much carbon in our products anyway. So it just goes back to that piece about creating circular economies to make sure that we're being climate smart as well. Also, independent third-party certification like SWEEP sends a clear message to your constituents that you, an organization, is a leader in sustainability, and this is becoming increasingly more and more important to people. They want to know their whatever they're buying is more green, or whatever they're participating in is more green, and why not feel that their solid waste authority is more green. I know that they don't have a lot of choice over that, but people just want to know that we're all working on this problem together. Also, certification of a circular and sustainable operation attracts young professionals looking to work for corporations that are aligning themselves with environmentally positive frameworks and business models that are walking the talk. So just to really recap, ways to get involved, we encourage any local governments or industry providers listening today to sign up for SWEEP certification. Please also join as a member. Local governments can join too, but any businesses online, please join. You can keep helping us to shape this standard, this roadmap that will eventually move the industry towards this sustainable materials management and circularity that we all need. And also, when you join as a member, we're happy to showcase your company in one of our bi-monthly webinars, highlighting a project or program that you're proud of, just like we did today with Nicole Toole and Eek-Go, one of our newest members. And here, this just shows you a listing out of some of our members here. We'd love for you to join. And so I just wanted to thank you for joining us today to learn about Eek-Go and about SWEEP. And to stay connected with us, you can use that QR code to sign up. And of course, you can email us there to get any information you'd like. And hope to see you at one of our next webinars.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Really appreciate your presentation. And Nicole, thank you also for sharing your really, really interesting tool. We have a question about Eek-Go. Love this solution for engagement. A little advertising there. Have you tracked long-term engagement trends with gamification? So it looks like there are a couple questions in this. So let's start there, and then I'll ask the second embedded question.
Yes, so that's a great question. So one of the things that we've learned over time is that financial incentives are great initially. So it's great to get people's attention. It's great get people to download an app. It's great to make that introduction around sustainability, around recycling initially. But it does not keep sustained participation over time. What does is giving more, showing impact. So showing how recycling today led to a reduction in carbon by or 10% or whatever, or whatever that measurement would be. That helps to make people feel like they're making a contribution consistently over time. So for our platform, what we've seen is that, because we focused initially primarily on financial incentives. So students got gift cards when they recycled. And on average, we would see that students would stay on for 2 semesters. So they would be here the first and they would continue the next. And then after, it would begin to drop off. And so now, after we've done a lot of focus groups and also read a lot of papers around this, we're seeing that showing impact can help. And then also like bringing in more community. So like if I can know that my best friend is recycling today and she recycled 3 water bottles, that'll encourage me to make sure that I do the same as well. So those 2 pieces are really important for sustained behavior change, is making it, showing that impact, but also making it a community thing close to that specific person. So those are some of the insights that we've gained so far.
That's great, Nicole. One of the questions that came up during your explanation, at least for me, was how I'm assuming that the gift cards and stuff like that are an important component of the program. What has been the response and what are the arguments that the sponsors of those incentives most responsive to? How do you get them in? How do you keep them in? What do they like about the program? Has there been any feedback about improvements that you've implemented or changed? I just because that seems to me to be, extending the engagement beyond, the community into the larger ecosystem, which I think is really important for the overall success. But I'm sure it took a lot of legwork. So I'm just curious, how you got there.
So as far as like the sponsors themselves, one, a lot of organizations are trying to get more aligned to sustainability and also making it more personal to prospective customers, clients, consumers, etc. So where we've kind of seen that sweet spot is that there are organizations that want to be a part of telling that recycling story. So the partnerships that we specifically look for is how can we help material, like Novellis's, Westrock, the organizations that process the materials, how can we help them tell the story of recycling? And so they are actually the ones that have been the main sponsors for the rewards because they want more recycled content in their facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So we're helping to tell the story of, okay, Susie Q recycled. Does she know that this is actually going to get processed at the Novellis facility down the street? And that means that it's going to be back on the shelf within 60 days. So that's really the main like sponsors that we focused on because they want to tell that story. As far as like CPG companies, we haven't gone into that yet because our goal is to make consumers aware of recycling and composting. And then we also don't want to encourage more harmful consumption. So how we're thinking about it is, okay, we want people to know that, yes, you could purchase another Coke bottle, but that is not the best behavior that we would want. We would want you to get a reusable water bottle or a more healthier, sustainable alternative. So we've been a little bit wary of going into the CPG sponsorship route because we know it could change. But those are the things that we're kind of thinking about before we start allowing for those kind of partners to come in. So
have you so presumably there's if you will, a closed loop. In other words, the folks at Novellis, Westrock, etc., they're reporting to you what they're doing with the materials that they receive. So you're getting, if you will, a printout of everything that they recycle each month, each year. How does that sort of feedback loop work to get, sort of to feed the encouragement to the participants in Eek-Go?
So at scale, we haven't gotten to that point with either of those organizations yet, since we primarily have been working at Georgia Tech around these programs. So right now we're still kind of figuring out what that would look like at scale. So right now, like what we're mainly kind of just focusing on is, okay, can we get the college students on these campuses to get engaged with recycling? And does that lead to an increase in can recycling on the campus itself? So that's kind of what we've been focusing on specifically. And then as far as like that feedback loop, I would imagine that it would be that they would give us a report on where they're metrics are for that month, for that week, so that we could really see how it changes things.
Great. So we have a question about sweep, which I'm going to defer for 1 second because I want to just sort of stay on this sort of eco sustainability sponsorship. And there's another question saying, when the program expands to under other universities, how will you support it financially, or how what is the plan for making it financially sustainable?
Yeah, so the main cost driver that was for the program initially was the gift cards. And that's one of the things that we've been trying to get those sponsorships with Novellis, Westrock to support the reward aspect. So we're actually at that point now. So I'm currently in the process of finalizing what those agreements are going to be for Novellis and Westrock. And so they will basically be the ones who are supporting the reward programs for the campuses that they want to launch on. So that will significantly reduce the cost for the universities. And so now we're transitioning into that currently. So would be happy, and I'm not sure who asked that question, but we'd be happy to discuss that with you further. But that's, so basically CPG companies, material recovery facilities will be the ones that are the main ones that support that reward program itself.
Excellent. Okay, great. So somebody asked if Sweep has advisors like True. And so the short answer is coming soon. We started with the lead model, where basically people put together a package and then we have independent experts reviewing it, scoring it, etc. And what we found through the pilot was that, having a simple scorecard where, your achievement vis-a-vis the credit was listed with the assumption being that, the customer would know, the applicant would know that, well, if you didn't get the credit, then, what you need to do is meet the requirements of the credit. But a lot of folks really wanted to get more from Sweep, like not unlike what you would get from somebody preparing a solid waste management plan, for example, with, a clear assessment of where you are, where you need to be, suggestions for getting there. So in response to that feedback from the pilot, we have begun developing Sweep training programs for, we're going to have the Sweep associate, Sweep professional associate, and then the Sweep assessor, which will be not unlike the BREEAM model, will basically take care of creating the report and actually doing most of the assessment themselves, which will then be sort of audited and reviewed by Sweep experts, but then that will be the assessment. So we're increasing our pathways towards certification. We're building our training and professional accreditation programs. So stay tuned. There will be opportunities if you are interested in this. One of the things that we're going to be doing is offering some of the initial trainings for free for some of the first Sweep accredited professionals as well as assessors, so that we can build our market. So if anybody on this webinar is interested, please write to us at info@sweepstandard.org, and we'll start working with you to get that going. All right, so we've got another question is about Eek-Go. When will the app be available in other languages? So are there plans for, in Espanol or other popular languages in the US? And so let's go there, and then I'll ask the second question, two-part question.
Yes, so the answer is yes. We'll be releasing that in January. So during 2025 is when we'll be able to support multiple languages. So yes.
Yeah. And our campus, so is it campus clubs or campus staff on the back end of Eek-Go that are able to see the data and set the geofence? So I guess the question is, how do you set the geofence? And so, yeah.
Yes, so it is the sustainability team who would set up the rules for the program. So our team would set the boundary around the geofence for your campus. And then your team would have full control of what the rules are surfaced in that locality, rewards, all that information. So it would be those sustainability teams.
Great, thank you. Then we have another question asking whether Eek-Go or Sweep have worked with CURC, C-U-R-C, the College and University Recycling Council. So I'm going to let you answer, Nicole, and then we'll answer.
So I have heard of that organization, but no, we have not done any work with them yet, but would love to get connected.
Yep, we are in the same boat. We've been dealing with bilateral relationships with several universities, including Cornell, Penn, UCLA, WPI, Wake Forest. And so we'd love to, connect with you, Nicole, and Georgia Tech and other college universities. And if the person who asked the question about CERC is involved with them, we'd love to work with you to get integrated into that, because we think that the college and campus, which would deal with both military bases and college campuses, is an important area for Sweep to go. We have regular college and graduate student volunteers helping us put Sweep together. So there is meaningful work for people who are passionate about material efficiency, climate reduction, climate impact reductions, and just environmentalism overall. And so we would love to partner with other organizations and other networks to ensure that we get this out and available to everybody. I don't see any more questions. Really appreciate how active and engaged the audience has been. Thank you so much. Feel free to look at our website, sweepstandard.org. We've got lots of interesting blogs and waste industry statistics, etc. Nicole, any final words? And then Natasha, I'm going to give you the last word.
Yes, I'll just echo. I appreciate everyone so much for taking the time. And again, thank you, Rob and Natasha, for the opportunity. And yes, I hope that everyone feels, I know solid waste management, program management is a lot of work. But I hope that everyone here knows that our work is incredibly impactful. And I hope that we can get, inspired even a little bit from the little things that we win in every single day. So thank you again for the time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Nicole. We'll have to figure out how to meet here in person. I didn't realize I didn't know you exactly. Yeah, right. So yeah, thanks for joining us here on Sweep today. And thank you everyone for joining. I want to let you know that this video will actually be up on our YouTube channel, and after we'll kind of download it and share it with you all by email as well. But thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see you at a next Sweep webinar in a couple months. Everyone have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.